Most people walk past these items every single week. They're stacked on metal shelves, they're lightweight, they don't ask for attention. And because of that, they're often dismissed as temporary, cheap, or not worth the effort. But in 2026, something has shifted. Homes are smaller, outdoor space is more intentional, and the question is no longer what looks impressive. It's what actually works without creating clutter, stress, or waste. Welcome back to Daily Garden Guide, your trusted companion for thoughtful, practical gardening wisdom. Today, we're looking at new Dollar Tree uses that quietly solve problems many homes are struggling with right now. Not in a flashy way, not in a disposable way, but in a way that feels thoughtful, practical, and surprisingly refined. This isn't about filling your home with more things. It's about using fewer things more intelligently. And if you live in a small space, if you garden on a balcony, patio, or narrow yard, if you care about how your home feels, not just how it photographs, you're exactly where you need to be. So settle in with your cup of tea, and let's explore a different way of seeing everyday items. In the past, Dollar Tree hacks were often loud, bright colors, over-decorated results, projects that looked impressive for a week then ended up in storage or worse, in the trash. But today, the goal is different. We're designing homes that feel calmer, we're reducing visual noise, and we're choosing solutions that earn their place by being useful, not trendy. What Dollar Tree offers when approached differently isn't decor. It's raw material. Simple forms, lightweight structures, neutral shapes, things that don't dictate style, they support it. So as we move through these ideas, notice this theme. Nothing here is pretending to be luxury, but everything here functions like it belongs. Hack 1, solving the balcony planter problem. Balcony and patio planters usually fail in one of two ways. They're either too shallow, which dries roots too fast, or too bulky, which eats up precious floor space. Most people assume the solution is buying specialized planters. But the real issue isn't the planter, it's how space is being used vertically. At Dollar Tree, there's an item most people overlook because it's labeled for something else entirely, a rectangular plastic dish pan. Not decorative, not marketed for plants, just a simple sturdy rectangle. On its own, it doesn't look like much, but its proportions are nearly perfect for narrow outdoor spaces. When paired with a few drainage holes and elevated slightly on bricks or risers, it becomes a low-profile planter system that fits flush against balcony railings or walls. Here's why this works. Rectangular shapes align with architecture. They waste less space than round pots, and they allow you to plant in rows instead of clusters. That means better airflow, more even watering, and roots that grow outward instead of downward, which is ideal for herbs and shallow root plants. This isn't a decorative trick, it's a structural improvement. And once planted with simple greens like basil, parsley, or lettuce, it disappears visually and lets the plants lead. Hack 2, why most plant stands fail. Plant stands are everywhere right now, but most of them introduce a new problem. They raise plants, but they don't stabilize them. Lightweight stands wobble, tall stands exaggerate imbalance, and in small spaces, one accidental bump can undo everything. The overlooked Dollar Tree solution? Wire paper organizers. They're meant to sit on desks, they're meant to hold folders, and because of that, they're designed to be stable, balanced, and weight distributed. When flipped on their side and anchored against a wall, these organizers create modular plant shelving. Each slot becomes a planting bay. The wire structure allows airflow, the open design prevents moisture buildup, and because they're modular, you can add only what your space allows. This works especially well in transitional areas, near sliding doors, along narrow patio walls, or beside kitchen windows. Instead of one tall risky stand, you get a low-grounded system that feels intentional. It's not about stacking plants high, it's about giving them their own quiet place to exist. Before we continue, it's important to say this. You don't need every idea in this video. You don't need to transform your space all at once, and you don't need to justify making slow improvements. One thoughtful adjustment is enough. The goal isn't productivity, it's peace. So if one idea stands out, that's already success. Hack 3, garden tool organization without wall damage. In rental spaces or homes where drilling isn't an option, garden tools tend to pile up awkwardly. The Dollar Tree solution is simple. Slim plastic trash cans or tall utility bins. Not large, not bulky, just tall enough to hold long-handled tools. When placed near an entryway or balcony door, these bins act as vertical tool docks. Watering cans slide inside, spray bottles line the perimeter, gloves tuck into the center. Because everything stands upright, nothing piles. And because the container is neutral, it fades into the background. Instead of hanging hooks, you create a contained zone, a place where garden tools live and stay. Hack 4. Soil storage without the mess. Soil bags are messy. Even when sealed, they shed dirt, and once opened, they never quite behave again. The common solution is buying specialty containers, but there's a simpler answer. Airtight cereal containers from Dollar Tree. They're narrow, they're stackable, and they're designed to keep contents dry. When used for potting soil or amendments, they solve multiple problems at once. No spills, no moisture absorption, no guessing how much is left. Because they're clear, you can see what you have. And because they're uniform, they stack cleanly on shelves. This isn't just organization, it's maintenance reduction. You spend less time cleaning and more time actually tending to plants. Hack 5. The window space most people waste. Window sills are often underused. They're either bare or cluttered with mismatched pots. What's missing isn't light, it's structure. Dollar Tree's plastic drawer organizers are usually used inside cabinets, but when turned lengthwise and placed on window sills, they become modular plant trays. Each compartment creates visual rhythm. Plants stop looking scattered, they start looking curated. This works beautifully for propagation jars, seedlings, or small succulents. And because the trays catch excess water, they protect surfaces without adding saucers. The result feels calm, not decorative, not busy, just ordered. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these ideas resonates most with your space? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. And if you're finding these practical solutions helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. What all of these ideas have in common is this. They don't rely on transformation, they rely on reframing. Seeing items not as what they're labeled, but as shapes, materials, and systems. By now, something subtle has likely shifted. You're no longer thinking in terms of Dollar Tree hacks. You're thinking in terms of systems. And that's where the real value begins. Hack 6. Flexible vertical gardening. Vertical gardening is often sold as the answer to small spaces, but most vertical systems fail for one simple reason. They're too rigid. Expensive wall panels, heavy wooden frames, permanent installations that assume your space will never change. In reality, small space gardens need to be flexible. At Dollar Tree, there's an item designed for closets, not gardens. Plastic hanging closet organizers. Lightweight, modular, and already designed to distribute weight vertically. When reinforced with zip ties or garden twine and hung against balcony railings or fences, these organizers become soft vertical planters. Each pocket supports shallow root plants, herbs, greens, trailing varieties. Because the material is breathable, excess moisture escapes. Because the structure is soft, wind doesn't stress the roots. And because it's removable, nothing is permanent. This isn't about creating a green wall, it's about introducing height without pressure, a system that adapts as your space changes. Hack 7. Invisible plant support. Plants rarely fail because of soil or water alone. They fail because they lack support. Stems bend, growth leans toward light, and before you realize it, plants are collapsing under their own weight. Traditional supports are either unattractive or disproportionately expensive. Dollar Tree's answer hides in plain sight. Metal cooling racks designed for kitchens, perfect for gardens. When placed horizontally over planters, these racks act as discrete trellises. Plants grow up through the grid naturally. There's no tying, no forcing. And because the grid is evenly spaced, growth stays balanced. This works exceptionally well for peas, beans, small flowering vines. Once plants fill in, the rack disappears completely. What remains is structure without visual clutter. Hack 8. Defining space without building walls. One of the hardest things in small outdoor areas is creating zones. Everything tends to blend together. Seating, plants, storage. And when space lacks definition, it feels chaotic even when it's clean. At Dollar Tree, look for plastic garden edging. Not the decorative kind with patterns, the plain flexible strips. Most people think of edging horizontally, but when used vertically, partially buried and gently curved, it becomes a soft boundary system. You can outline a planting zone, separate soil from gravel, define a walking path. Because the material is low profile, it doesn't dominate the space. And because it bends, it works in irregular areas where rigid materials fail. This is not about fencing things off, it's about giving the eye a place to rest. This is where many people go wrong. They discover solutions and then try to implement all of them at once. But good design isn't about volume, it's about restraint. If your space feels overwhelmed, the answer is not another hack. It's often removing something that doesn't earn its place. Every idea in this video works best when paired with empty space. Let things breathe. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Daily Garden Guide. We're building a community of thoughtful gardeners who believe that beautiful spaces come from intention, not accumulation. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next session of gardening wisdom. Hack 9, Weather Protection Without Bulk. Outdoor items degrade quickly when they're not protected. Sun fades plastic, rain warps wood, wind dries soil unevenly. Protective covers exist, but they're expensive, bulky, and rarely fit small setups. Dollar Tree offers a surprisingly effective alternative. Clear plastic tablecloths. Thin, flexible, UV-resistant enough for short-term use. When clipped over shelving, planters, or seed-starting trays, they create temporary microclimates. Protection from sudden rain, cold nights, harsh midday sun. Because they're clear, light still reaches plants. And because they're removable, airflow is easily restored. This is not a greenhouse, it's situational protection. And that distinction matters. Hack 10, The Movable Planter Solution. Heavy planters feel substantial, but in small spaces they create issues. Difficult to move, hard to clean around, stressful when layouts need adjusting. The alternative isn't flimsy plastic, it's distributed weight. Dollar Tree's plastic storage crates, especially the Lattice-style ones, are ideal for this. Line them with landscape fabric, fill with lightweight soil mix, plant directly. Instead of one heavy pot, you have a movable planting module. The open sides allow airflow, the fabric retains soil, and the crate structure prevents bulging. This system works beautifully for root vegetables, seasonal flowers, and compact shrubs. And when the season ends, the crate can be emptied, cleaned, and stored flat. Nothing permanent, nothing wasted. Hack 11, Visual Container Harmony. One of the fastest ways a space feels chaotic is visual inconsistency. Different pot colors, different materials, different heights. Even quality plants can look disorganized when containers don't relate to one another. The Dollar Tree solution isn't buying more pots, it's container unification using identical bins, matching trays, repeating shapes. When containers repeat, the eye stops scanning. The plants become the focus. This is where Dollar Tree excels. Not because items are beautiful individually, but because they're consistent. Consistency reads as intention. Hack 12, Simple Hardware Replacement. Garden hardware adds up quickly. Clips, hooks, brackets. But many of these functions can be replaced with one overlooked item. Binder clips. Strong, reusable, weather-resistant enough for seasonal use. They can secure covers, hold trellising fabric, anchor lightweight structures. Because they're black or metallic, they visually disappear. This is a small thing, but small things are often what keep systems working smoothly. At this point, you may be noticing something. These ideas aren't about saving money for its own sake. They're about avoiding unnecessary complexity. Expensive products often promise ease but introduce rigidity. Simple items used thoughtfully do the opposite. They adapt. The real shift isn't about Dollar Tree at all. It's about how you approach your space. When you stop chasing upgrades, when you stop trying to match other people's setups, when you start designing from function instead of appearance, something changes. Your home begins to feel steadier, more forgiving, more yours. There's a misconception that budget-friendly solutions are temporary by nature, that they exist only until something better comes along. But that mindset assumes quality always comes from price, when in reality, quality often comes from clarity. When you're clear about what a space needs, you stop overbuying. You stop forcing solutions that don't fit. And suddenly, even the simplest items begin to perform well. A bin becomes storage, a rack becomes structure, a tray becomes order, not because it was expensive, but because it was chosen deliberately. How do you know when a solution is worth keeping? Here's a simple way to decide whether something belongs in your garden home. Ask yourself, does this reduce friction? Does it make care easier? Does it simplify my routine? If the answer is yes, it earns its place. If it creates extra steps, extra cleaning, or extra visual noise, it doesn't matter how clever it is. Let it go. Design isn't about cleverness, it's about support. One of the most overlooked elements in small gardens is emptiness. Empty shelves, clear corners, open walkways. These aren't wasted areas, they're what allow everything else to breathe. Every Dollar Tree solution we've discussed works best when it's paired with restraint. One planter instead of 3, one vertical system instead of a wall of them. This isn't minimalism as an aesthetic, it's minimalism as relief. Why do these ideas last beyond 2026? Trends age quickly, but principles don't. Everything in this video is built on repetition, containment, flexibility, and ease of maintenance. Those principles apply regardless of budget. They apply whether you're gardening on a balcony, in a courtyard, or along a fence line. And they apply whether items come from Dollar Tree or somewhere else entirely. What matters is not where something is purchased, it's why it's there. A garden home isn't about display. It's not about perfection. It's about creating a space that quietly supports daily life, where tools have a place, where plants aren't competing for attention, where maintenance doesn't feel like a burden. When systems work, you stop thinking about them, and that's the goal. If your space isn't finished, it's okay. If it looks different from what you imagined, that's normal. Homes evolve, gardens respond, and thoughtful design allows both to change without stress. You don't need to rush improvement. You don't need to replace everything at once. You're allowed to move slowly. The most surprising thing about these ideas isn't that they come from Dollar Tree. It's that they remind us of something we already know. That usefulness matters, that simplicity endures, and that a well-considered space doesn't need to announce itself. It simply works. And when it does, life around it feels a little lighter. So my dear gardening friends, which of these 12 ideas will you try first? I'd love to hear what resonates with your space and your gardening style. Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. If this helped you see everyday items differently or gave you one idea you'll actually use, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with fellow gardeners who value thoughtful, intentional spaces. Your support helps me continue creating content that focuses on wisdom over trends, and simplicity over excess. Remember, the most beautiful garden homes are built with clarity, not clutter. Design with purpose, garden with peace, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening!